Hello, I am David Cacioppo. I'm the president and CEO of Mfluence. We are a digital marketing agency and marketing automation platform provider. I am really excited to be here at DynamicsCon. DynamicsCon has been a fantastic event for the last several years for us in order to get out there and to meet and be with a community of like-minded individuals. So thank you so much for being here with me today. Quick reminder for you that you can type in questions into the chat as we go today, and we'll have a live Q&A session at the end. Would love to hear from you, see what your questions are regarding the content from today, and have a dialogue with you. So give me as many questions as you got. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. Our presentation today is defining your customer journey with Microsoft Dynamics. And a little bit about me first. So I have about 30 years of marketing and advertising experience. I'm highly focused on the digital marketing channel since about 2007. I've done work with major brands including Walmart, Hallmark, H&R Block, Bushnell, American Century, Helzberg Diamonds, Proven Winners, Cerner, YRC Freight, lots and lots of big companies and lots of medium-sized companies and lots of small companies. So really have a rich set of experience to draw from as I talk about the customer journey here. So Mfluence itself, as I mentioned, is a full-service digital marketing agency, and we have a proprietary marketing automation platform that ties directly into D365 and to Power Apps. And the Mfluence marketing platform allows clients to create, deploy, and track their online marketing campaigns. So with that, let's get going with our content. And I want to start by just talking about what is a customer journey. And so I think probably for most folks, we've heard the term customer journey at this point. And I know that the level of the audience here, some folks will probably have rich experience with customer journeys, and some folks will be going, I kind of know what it is, but I don't exactly know what it is. I'm here to learn. And so this presentation is for you and for everyone as we get deeper into the conversation. And again, hopefully there's some questions in the chat as we go along here. So what is a customer journey? So customer journey is the complete life cycle from the first connection between a brand and an individual to a mature relationship built on trust and mutual value. So there are lots of variations of a customer journey. If you go out there and you Google it, you'll see all kinds of infographics and different stages. But the most typical and the one we're going to be working from today has 5 steps to it. So those steps are awareness, consideration, convert, or sometimes called conversion, loyalty, and advocacy. And so awareness is when an individual is researching options. They are in the market, they have a need for a product or a service, and they're out there trying to figure out, what are my options? Who are the companies I could work with? What's the software I could work with? What are the products I need? Then they go into a consideration phase. So they've aligned themselves with 3 or 4 options, sometimes more than that. And now they're going to get down into the details and say, which of these options is best for my needs? Which company do I want to do work with? So this is the consideration phase. And so really looking at the services and the benefits of any individual or any organization that they're considering doing business with. Then they get to the conversion step. So at this point, they become a customer. So they're confirming a partnership. They've selected you, hopefully, and they have reasons why they've selected you. And we're going to start to define and develop and kick off that relationship. Then you get into loyalty. And loyalty is, continuing to use the services and request additional support. These are customers that have been with us for a while, or maybe they're customers that continue to buy our services over and over again. And ultimately, what we're after here is as many advocates as we can get. And so advocates are the ones that are going to actively refer you to other people. They're out there singing your praises. They're unpaid evangelists. They're people that just love what you do, who you are, and what you do for them. And they're talking about you a lot. And so when it gets to determining who's an advocate, a great approach to that is looking at something like a net promoter score, which is a simple survey with 10 point rating scale to it, which is how likely are you to refer us to someone? And if someone gives you a 9 or a 10 on that 10 scale, they are actually going to actively refer you. If they give you a 6, 7, 8, they're kind of indifferent-ish. But actually sometimes in the 1 to 6 category, they're actually a detractor. That is not a strong enough relationship to call someone an advocate. So what we're really striving for here when we get to advocacy is those 9s and those 10s. So why is Microsoft Dynamics perfect for this kind of an exercise for setting up for the customer journey? So when we look at all these 5 phases, awareness, consideration, convert, loyalty, and advocacy. In the first phase, awareness, Dynamics doesn't necessarily have a big play here. What's happening is people are out there, they're researching, they're trying to get information. It's going to be more along the lines of your website, your promotional materials, any sort of advertising you're doing out there to try and get someone's attention. But as soon as we get into consideration, what we're going to be dealing with in Dynamics is the leads entity. Right? These are folks that you know who they are. We've actively identified them. We probably have an email address, a first name, last name, potentially company name, title, some additional information about them, what their services are that they're looking for. That's going to take us then to the convert stage. So some of those that went from consideration to leads are going to turn into opportunities, and that's our opportunity entity in Microsoft Dynamics. From there, when we convert them to loyal customers, we're going to be in our account entity. And so conversion really takes them from an opportunity right into that account entity. And the account entity is going to carry us all the way through from loyalty to advocacy and hopefully to continually re-signing and re-engaging with these individuals. So let's get started with our journey. First thing we need to understand is how to get the right data and the right people involved for this exercise. So what is our journey? Let's start by documenting all the potential ways a person could be engaged with your brand, from marketing to sales to customer success. So this could be anything. It could be email through marketing or sales, direct sales outreach. It could be social media campaigns. It could be paid, organic, or both social media. Could be events. Do you host webinars? Do you do trade shows? Are you out there networking? Customer support. So there's automated customer support. People might be engaging with a bot as an automated AI bot that's answering questions for them, but there's still an engagement element that's happening there. And you want to know what kind of conversations are being had with that bot as it tries to answer questions for people. But there's also real live support there and people that are engaged with these customers and prospects. Online content. So what does your website look like? Do you have microsites? Do you have landing pages that are out there? Do you have promoted profiles? Are you out there on partner sites? And what does your brand look like in all those locations? So we want to get all this information gathered up. What do you look like out there in digital space and in physical space for your marketing and your advertising efforts? What kind of phone calls are happening on your behalf? Is there face-to-face or word of mouth? And what kind of referrals are happening? So gathering up the information is a big step in having the data set that we're going to need to explore where we are and where we want to go with this journey mapping. So step 2 is to determine what you already have in Dynamics. So is Dynamics actually capturing marketing, sales, and support data? And if it's not, we have some work to do. There's a way to set up all of these entities so that they're capturing the information that you should have going forward, but the basic requirements would include a campaigns entity that's set up so that you can track your individual campaign efforts and the success or failure of those efforts. You should be leveraging both the lead source field and a campaign source field on your campaigns entity. And then a competitor entity. And so these two, I mentioned these two in particular because they're often not used compared to what we see out there in the market. Especially the competitor entity is we believe, frequently underutilized. So what you need to know here is who you're competing against and if you're winning or if you're losing, and some notes on why you might be winning or losing. Why did you beat this competitor this time and you didn't before is really, really valuable information in how we craft our messaging on an ongoing basis. You're also going to want to track your marketing spend or have access to your historical marketing spend and understand your potential ROI on that marketing spend. So here's a spreadsheet. I recognize that this might be a little bit hard to read some of the detail here. I'm going to talk through it and know that you can download these slides later. But essentially across the top here, the key metrics that we're going to be tracking are expected leads, expected cost per lead, actual cost per lead, expected number of opportunities, actual number of opportunities, expected total dollar value for the opportunities, actual dollar value, expected 1% and the actual 1%, the expected revenue, the actual revenue, the expected cost, and the actual cost. And then, of course, you're going to build in your hours. So it is easy for folks to get lost in the hard cost associated with deploying campaigns and forget that there is a whole lot of human effort that goes into it and there's a value to those human hours that are there, and a dollar value should be associated with that, so you have a real true cost for that. And so then as you take a look at the rows going downward, you're looking at categories of co-marketing. So are you working with partners, and what kind of a cost per lead are you expecting there? Are you looking at retention activities? Are you hosting events for current clients? What other activities are you doing? And all of this boils down to a total cost and an average cost per lead, which is a really valuable metric for you when you go back and you try and determine which of my campaign efforts are the best. So if you're getting a really great cost per lead, that is good as long as you're converting at a proper rate and you're winning an appropriate number of opportunities. So, and then of course you're going to continue this spreadsheet year over year over year and refine it and hopefully get better and better at what you do. So having this historical data set when you go to the journey mapping exercise is going to be really important as well. So then we want to state our goals. What are we trying to get out of this exercise? So these could be general, or you may create them for each line of service, but you're going to use historical data and dynamics to determine how many opportunities did it take for you to achieve your sales goals? What was your average deal size? How many leads did you need to meet those sales goals? And you can look for outliers and see if there's, some were just a gimme win for you, and some were far more difficult. Maybe it was a 2 or 3 year effort, but use average deal size, dollar value to get to a true average, not one that might be distorted by a really small or very large sale. And then how many marketing qualified leads do you expect? And at what rate do you expect to turn them into sales qualified leads? So let's start with the best lead source. As I mentioned, this can get really complicated. You can really get into a state of having to do lots and lots of work and confuse yourself early if you've never done this before. So let's start with a single lead source. So hopefully in Dynamics, we have the lead source and the lead source campaign fields populated historically so that we can go back and say which of these are best. And so as you look at what would the options be for those fields, well, it could be an account-based marketing campaign. It could be a digital audit. It could be a business development partnership. It could have been a conference. How did this person come to the table with their opportunity? And then look at those one opportunities by lead source. And so as you can see here, the black indicates the one opportunities, the black bar here, and current client is and probably always will be for most people the easiest win. It's easier to upsell a current client than it is to win a new one. But then as you kind of look at the other ones, where are we converting here? You see that conferences and website leads both come up as a little bit of a leader in terms of what are our best lead sources. So let's just say we want to start with website leads in this case as our best lead source, and how do we build a journey mapping exercise around that? So the next piece, who's going to be involved in this exercise? Well, absolutely marketing, because marketing is probably running this exercise, but you definitely need the sales team involved, right? They hold key information from being on the streets, from being face-to-face to who your prospects are, and trying to convert those prospects into opportunities and into closed business. You're going to want your support team, because they're going to tell you what it's like to work with your existing customers. They're going to take you all the way from the initial setup of the customer through the ongoing support, and how strong is the relationship. And that's also where customer success comes into play. Customer success is out there checking in on your customers, starting at the onboarding process, finishing the onboarding to the handoff to the team, and then with them throughout the life cycle at some regular cadence, checking in on your customers to see how things are going. They're there if there's an issue that arises. The customer success team comes in. All four of these key individuals, and they may not be individuals, they may be teams for you, have a say or have valuable information for this entire journey mapping exercise. Okay, so let's prep for the first session. So this is where the hard work really begins. So you want to come prepared to your meeting by picking the most profitable lead source to start. And so we said, okay, let's start with our website leads, and who on your team is involved with generating website leads. You're going to want to take a handful of those one opportunities that are attributed to website leads and get really good historical information on them. So pick some that you won, pick some that you lost, and pick some that are currently open, and make sure that you have the key players involved with those opportunities to give input during your meetings. Then you're going to assign some homework to each of the participants. So document every touch point for those prospects that they had along the way. So, what was the first phone call that a salesperson made? Do they respond to phone calls? Was it an email, direct email that went out? Is there an email chain that's going on? Did the contact happen on a chat bot or chat on online on your website? How did you first get the introduction, and what is every single touch point along the way? So each of your participants should say, well, here was my contribution to this opportunity. And so if you can actually bring in some examples of messaging, of the ad creative, maybe of emails and other communication, all this is going to be really good, rich information as you develop out your customer journey. So your meeting goals are to answer a few questions. So what's missing at each stage of the journey? Are you over or under communicating? Where is the sales team getting stuck? And can marketing do anything to help? Is there more opportunity in the pipeline? Are there broader goals marketing can support on the client side? And are we working hard enough to turn existing clients into advocates? So bringing to the meeting, so as you look at each phase of the journey, and we're just looking at the awareness phase here, again, we're going to look at our channels. So for our website leads, well, search was involved, SEO was involved, paid media was probably involved. There were probably social campaigns involved. There may have been conferences driving traffic to the website. The website itself is one of the channels we want to look at here. And then what kinds of metrics are we measuring to determine success? So what are our KPIs? And so examples of those, and there could be others for you, but impressions, whether they're organic or paid, clicks, number of sessions, follows, likes, all your social metrics, you want to be tracking those. Do you have gated content out there? Are you doing lead capture by gating content and asking people to give up their email address and first name, last name, maybe a title, something like that, in order to get some valuable content? It has to be content that's valuable to them. How many leads are you capturing through that gated content? So there's your metric there. And what you're going to hope to answer with those is how do your prospects, or in this case, these are folks that are just doing their discovery on who they want to work with. How are they finding you? And what does your brand look like? And how does it address their concerns? Is it doing a good job of saying, yes, we are the solution for the problem that you have? And then in the opportunity phase, for here, actually in terms of opportunities, what can we do to make what we currently have better? So how can website leads, which is already a good performing channel for us, how can we make it better? Okay, so let's talk about the individual stages in a little bit more depth here. So our journey stage, awareness, number one stage is people are out there and they're doing their research. And as we mentioned before, they could be searching online, and they probably are. That's probably one of the number one areas of focus for any business across any industry is your search engine optimization game has to be really, really good, or you're never going to get found by people who do not know who you are already. So people are out there conducting online research. They might see sponsored ad content. They could be out there asking peers for advice. They might be out there attending conferences. They could be out there downloading your website content. So when you think about that, what channels do make sense for you? SEO, as I mentioned, is a fantastic channel for people who don't know you. SEO it's hard to do. It's very hard to do. It's oversimplified when someone explains it to you, but there is a lot of work to do. There's tremendous competition out there. And of course, the landscape changes because Google is out there changing its algorithm every so often, and it sort of shuffles the deck. So all the hard work you did to get top rankings for targeted key phrases can get shaken up at any time, and suddenly you've got a whole team of SEO experts, or maybe it's a single SEO expert out there trying to figure out what they need to do differently to regain your position. So of course, one of the shortcuts to get to the top of those rankings is paid media. So you can be out there with paid ads on Google and Bing and other networks that are out there. It's expensive, but can perform really, really well. So it's something that you need to track all the way through to an ROI to be sure you're doing the right kinds of things. Social media, people tend to think that social is free. Social is not free. It is free to post something, but it's not exactly free because you have a professional who knows what they're doing out there on social channels, crafting messaging, the right kinds of messaging, and delivering that messaging at the right time, and then monitoring those posts for feedback and engaging with those posts. So sounds cheap, but there's real effort to it. It's also really effective. So it's up there when your top channels for what you should be considering here in the awareness stage. Direct mail. Again, email is a permission channel. You don't really want to be out there buying lists and spamming people. That is not a great way to develop a strong brand. Direct mail, on the other hand, is okay. It's acceptable. It's a medium that's been around for a long time, and these days, when we bring that up in conversation, especially from the perspective of being a digital agency, people are like, wait, you're digital. Why would you say something about direct mail? Direct mail is a highly effective channel if you do it right. And it's actually become slightly more effective in the more recent years because lots of brands are abandoning it, meaning that there's less noise, it's less crowded space. So consider that as a potential channel. And then, of course, good old fashioned broadcast, whether it's radio or TV or including things like outdoor advertising. So everything is fair game for consideration during the awareness phase, and something that you need to consider and look at. So, and then determine what and how you're going to measure during awareness. And so we talked a little bit about this, but if it's your website traffic, if it's your paid media, if it's your social, you're looking at impressions, you're looking at clicks, you're looking at sessions. So someone clicks through from a social ad, how long do they stay on your site compared to if they clicked through from a link that was organic in a search engine results page? So how many comments, likes, and follows are you getting on your social channels? What you're really looking at here is engagement, right? And understanding, is the content that we're putting out there performing? Do people like what we're saying, or is it just more noise in their feed and they're scrolling right past what we have to say? And if that's the case, it's time to change the messaging. So unique URL visits and calls. So do you have inbound calls on your website, click to call button, something like that? So when we talk about unique URL visits, how many people are visiting your pricing page or your get a demo page or call for a consultation, something like that? You want to really focus in on those that might be buying signals or people that appear to be more actively looking, more deeply looking at what you have to offer, with the hopes that they make it to the next stage of our journey. So what is your messaging? How do you address the customer's questions and concerns? So we're out there, we know what our measurements are, but now what are we actually currently saying? So what do our blog posts say? What kind of research is out there? What are our social messages, our white papers, our case studies, our explainer videos? Are we doing a really good job of telling those people who are out there looking for what we have that we meet their needs? And you can look at things like that and say, well, what does the bounce rate on my website look like? So if I offer service A and they appear to be looking for service A and they're coming to my service A page on my website and they immediately go away in droves, I've got a problem with my messaging. However, if our bounce rate is low, that means that they are finding content that they think is relevant to what they're looking for. So I probably got a good presence on that particular page. Same kind of thing goes for all of your content. Are they seeing the content? Are they engaging with the content? If so, you're probably doing a pretty good job of addressing questions and concerns. So, and now what can we do to make the experience better? So again, go back to that high bounce rate. These are people that came to your page and immediately left. Something about it did not answer their questions, did not appear you were the right fit. What can you be doing to make that experience better? So do you have great content? Are all your channels performing? Do you need to be looking at new channels? Here's a great opportunity for some A/B split testing on a web page. So let's say that page we're talking about here, content A page, is all about a particular service that you have. Every other page, serve up a different version of your content and see which one has a lower bounce rate. Change your messaging, change your voice potentially, test things out. There's not nearly enough testing going on, in particular with website properties for the clients that we see that are out there. It's easy to test things in an email campaign, but people tend to shy away from testing on their website, and the website is probably one of the most important places where you can do some testing. All right, so let's look at the consideration phase then. So what's happening during the consideration phase is we're really getting educated on services and benefits. We've requested information and pricing. We're maybe doing a needs assessment. There's probably a sales presentation. They're definitely out there shopping competitors. But hopefully at the end of this consideration phase, they're asking for an agreement. So obviously that's a very strong buying signal, but anybody who's out there in sales land knows that just requesting an agreement does not equal a closed sale. You can't count that one yet. too many things can go wrong at the end. There's a decent chance that they're requesting agreements from other folks, and lots of stuff can go wrong during the agreement phase. One thing being, if your agreement is too complicated and they have strict legal teams that just don't want to go through the time and effort or drag out the time and effort, where your competitor might have a very simple agreement that makes it easy for them to do business with. So in this phase, we're looking at the website, we're looking at email, phone calls, and face-to-face conversations. So again, those are the channels that are in play: website, email, phone calls, face-to-face. What are we going to measure? Well, we're really looking at engagement here. So how many phone calls are happening? What does the exchange of emails look like? Are we sending both direct sales emails, and are we sending marketing emails? And if so, are they responding and clicking on those marketing emails? Are they consuming content on our website, and what content are they consuming on that? And then are they converting to leads, and are they converting to opportunities during this phase? It appears they're going to convert to opportunities. So what's our messaging again? How are we addressing customer concerns? So we've got brochures out there, we've got the calls that are happening, we have needs assessments, personalized messages, FAQs, benefit overviews. Having recorded conversations of phone calls between reps and prospects is a really strong move, so that you can periodically go back through there and say, sales rep A is closing way more deals than sales rep B. Why is that? What kind of language is sales rep A using that is different than sales rep B? And how can we start to standardize our language across our entire sales team so that we're converting more deals? So how do we make it better? Again, it's looking at each of those things. So if you do have physical brochures, or those brochures driving people to website content, well, you could track that by using unique URLs on those brochures, maybe by microsites or landing pages specific to those brochures, to figure out, does this messaging resonate? Are these channels performing? And again, once again, you're always looking for, are there different channels we should be looking for during the consideration phase? All right, so that's going to take us to our journey stage convert. So confirming the partnership. So they've signed an agreement. We made it past the legal hurdles here. We're going to start doing training. We're going to access their new account, or their new team members, or new service, or whatever it is. They maybe initiate their first test using your service. They start to do something, and then they're starting to make payments to you. So at this point, we're probably into marketing automation land. So you're using an email service provider or a marketing automation platform provider. You're starting to send direct email, or more direct email, you're continuing to directly email them, to call them, and to have face-to-face conversations. So what are we measuring here? So we're measuring the number of contracts we got. Measure things like, how many times are they logging in? If you sell a software product or an online service, how engaged are they during this convert stage? Are there enrollments from within what they've subscribed to? Maybe they've subscribed to a service, now all their team has to enroll in that. How many of their team members are actually enrolling? Or if you're selling B2C, selling direct online, what are your online sales looking like during this phase? And then what is your messaging? Again, so is your onboarding campaign great? Because with pretty much every product or service, there is an onboarding moment. So if you have a service, it's the introduction, the handoff from the sales team to the service team. If you have a product, it's they didn't know who you were. They did a bunch of research. They decided to buy your product, and then they've got your product in their hands now. So what is that first step like? And it should be pretty special. So you deliver that product to them along with some messaging that says, welcome. We are super excited to be engaged with you, and here's how to make the most out of your product, or whatever it is that you have. Make sure that they're using it the way that it's intended to be used, that they understand all the features and benefits. Make it a great experience so that they come back for that next purchase. So again, looking at that onboarding campaign, looking at what your training looks like, looking at how your account management team is onboarding these folks. Is everything here great? And if it's not great, it's time to test something different. Depending on how big your team is, you could have a team that tests a different version of an onboarding campaign, a different set of account management rules in place, a different training program. Try and up level constantly, making sure that your communication with your customer along their journey is the best it can possibly be. All right, so this takes us to loyalty. So they continue to use our services and request support from us. So they schedule account reviews, they contact customer support, they maybe they make an account change request. Are they engaged with our content that we have? They attend our webinars. So again, there's sales emails, calls, face-to-face, and marketing emails. You probably still have some marketing automation going on at this point. Essentially, keeping you connected to your customer throughout the entire journey, and especially in this loyalty phase where they've already connected with you, they've already purchased, and you want them to continue to purchase, to renew their contracts, or to buy more goods or services. So, what are we going to measure here? Well, renewals would be a big one, right? So, if you have a service that is a 1-year contract, are they renewing? And so what's happening as you approach the end of the first 1-year cycle? You need to be talking to them about renewals 60 days out, maybe even longer than that, to make sure that they're happy. So your customer success team is involved here, saying, and hopefully they've been involved all along the way, establishing that you have a strong relationship, spotting weak spots, and hopefully making those better along the way, so that when it comes renewal time, we have a happy customer that doesn't want to go through the pain of switching. And not only do they not want to go through the pain, they just really want to stay. They don't want to switch. So you're measuring lifetime value, right? So getting them for 1 year is great. Getting them for 5 years is outstanding. So how are you measuring the value of these customers over time? We want customers that stay with us for sure. One sure indicator of whether or not they're staying with us or they're going to stay with us is engagement. And so in those engagement moments, is the interaction positive or negative or neutral? If it's negative or neutral, you have work to do. Neutral's okay, but it's not really okay. It's not really great. You want positive interactions. You want people coming in and saying, hey, I've got questions, or hey, I need support. And at the end of that support ticket, you want them to be saying, thanks so much, you're amazing. I really appreciate your help here. That's the kind of thing you want to get these people to stay engaged and to increase lifetime value. So again, what's your messaging? What is your account management team saying? What kind of email campaigns do you have out there to support the loyalty phase, to get this customer more engaged with what you have? And so a lot of times that can be something like noticing that the customer is engaged with one service area, yet they have purchased more than that. So maybe you have a software product, as we do, where people come in primarily, they need one element of that software product, but there's a whole bunch more that is available to them that they are not using. So you can use email and automated campaigns as well as direct outreach to say, hey, don't forget you have these other valuable services available to you. And the more you can get someone to use your full range of services, the better the relationship is going to be, the stronger the relationship is going to be, the better the lifetime value you're going to have. So, and again, all along the way, how can we make the experience better? So, do you have great content? Are your channels performing? Should you be looking at new channels? The advocacy phase. Actually, I want to back up one step here to loyalty. One great way to measure loyalty is through an RFM analysis. So in particular, if you're selling products or services, but this is really applicable to B2B and B2C. So RFM is recency, frequency, and monetary. So what you're going to do is you're going to assign score values to how recently has someone purchased from you, how frequently do they purchase from you, and how much money do they spend with you. And you're going to create a score. So you're going to break those up into 5-point buckets. So the top 20% of folks that spend the most money are going to get 5 points. The top 20% of people that have the most number of purchases or re-signs are going to get 5 points. And the people who have purchased most recently are going to get 5 points, being the top scores of 15. You can use that to determine how loyal people are to you and how to craft your messaging. But what that's also going to do is take us into the advocacy phase. So those people that are scoring a 15 are likely candidates to be strong advocates for you. So you want that customer success team reaching out to them, connecting with them to find out how happy they are. So they're completing surveys, they're rating your services. Hopefully they're out there online giving you recommendations and referrals to appropriate websites and things like that. They're providing testimonials. They may even act as a direct reference for you. So looking at that kind of a scoring model, and that's a field that you can easily add. You could add 3 fields actually to your CRM for recency, frequency, and monetary, and then have a calculation field that gives you a sense for who are your best customers there. So Again, what kind of channels make sense during the advocacy phase? Well, emails, calls, face-to-face, at the point of use or consumption. So when someone logs into your software, do you have a moment where you're asking them to say, how was the experience today? And would you take the time to rate us online or review us? Or is it okay if we use you as a reference for an upcoming prospect that we have that we think would like to talk to you about your success with our services or products? So what are you going to measure? Well, referrals is number one, right? So of the advocates that are out there singing your praises, how many of them are actually driving in actual opportunities for you? Are there really strong online reviews? So not every advocate is actually going to drive a new customer to you, but if they're saying great things out there about you online, that's a really, really strong thing because your reputation online was looked at in the very first stage of the customer journey. They're looking to see if anybody has reviewed you or rated you. Who's saying negative things? Who's saying positive things? Are there testimonials that are out there? And then what kind of messaging do you have? So get that net promoter score, net promoter survey out and get it out on a regular cadence. So um, for example, at least once a year, you want to get a net promoter score out there. But one of the tactics that we do and what we've seen other companies do is that we look every 30 days for someone who has used our software application and we send them an email the next day, the day after they used it, and say, hey, how was your experience? 1 to 10. We're looking at the results of every single response. And if we get 9s and 10s, we're happy and we're talking to those people and we're encouraging them to get out there and review us online. If we're getting anything less than that, we're probably going to go to the customer support team and say, why didn't this particular client give us a 9 or a 10? Why did they give us an 8? Why did they give us a 6? Something like that, and figure out what the friction point is there, and then have a direct conversation with them to try and resolve the issue so that we can get these people into the advocacy phase there. So a strong tactic to use and something that, again, it's pretty simple to execute. It can literally be one question. In our case, we sometimes expand it to 2 or 3 questions, which are what do you like, what do you not like, and what else would you like us to build? So again, here we're going to review, is our messaging great? How do we leverage these advocates, and are there new channels that we should be using to get these advocates out there speaking on our behalf? So let's put it all this information to use. So now what are we going to do with that? Well, let's talk about some campaigns, what you want to achieve, what you'll need to know first, and how you're going to get there. So let's talk about a cross-sell campaign. Someone has bought something that we have, and we want to sell them something that's a related service that we suspect they might like. So you have your cross-sell campaign. You're going to need the previous purchase data, and you're going to want to understand the buyer preferences. And you're going to get that data from your CRM or from your accounting software that shows purchase history, and you're going to see what kind of customer input you have from that. If we're looking at some sort of a regional promotion, you're going to need data points for a zip code, your territory, your region, and you're going to get that data from your sales team. If you're looking at something like a contract renewal date, well, you're going to need the end of the contract date and who potentially the competitors are there. And then you're going to have that data in a CRM date field, which just says contracts expiring here. So let's get ahead of it by 60 days and make sure there are no competitors out there getting into the mix with us. All right, so let me remind you at this point that customer journey mapping is not a one-time thing. We really took a look at one example of one particular channel. We just looked at our lead sources for website leads and mapped through that. We have a whole bunch more work to do, but once we've completed all that work, we're going to continue to do it again and again and refine what we do. So you got to map the rest of those sources and stay connected with those sources and what's going on with those, and then refine every year probably is a good cadence for your journey mapping. So with that, we'll take it to the Q&A. I welcome your questions, and if there's any that are queued up now, we'll address those questions now. Thank you again for being with me today. I really appreciate your time. For a few minutes, in case anybody has any questions. Krista, do you have anything queued up that you see there?
I have a few questions, and I'm still watching the chat, so if anyone has any lingering questions, just let us know. We'll try to get those answered. But I just want to go ahead and dive right in. So the first question is, how many customer journey maps does an organization need?
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. So in our presentation here, we did one single map, but potentially you're going to want to map by not only all of your lead sources, right, that track through to conversion. So you'll have, three, four, five, six, seven, who knows how many lead sources you have, but you may also want a journey map per lead source per persona. So there's different buyer types for your products and services, different stakeholders, and so each of those can be talked to in a different way. You're going to talk to the finance team very differently than you're going to talk to the marketing team or potentially who the end buyer actually is. Finance guy is going to write the check, but the actual user of the software is an entirely different human who has a different set of things that they care about. So by the time you combine all those together, you have quite a few journeys that you would need to map. So that's why we say start with one, prove that it works.
Okay. Next question. How do I convince leadership that this is a valuable exercise? And then how do I implement it in my organization?
Yeah, so convincing leadership that it's a valuable exercise. There's a lot of work to be done here, right? So it's a team probably that's doing this, and what we generally say to people who have to prove things up the chain is rather than positioning it as a giant project, position it as a small test, right? It's easier for leadership to buy off on a concept of a test that has a limited scope and a limited budget, and go pick that your lead source that you feel like you're most likely to succeed with, that's going to have the least friction along the way, and perform one journey map there. Set your KPIs. What are going to be things that help you determine whether you're winning? So you got a baseline today, map out your journey and start implementing it. And then after X period of time, whatever's relevant to you, wherever you can get enough data in, compare that to your baseline. And hopefully it shows that you did some great stuff. You take the test results back to the C level and you say, hey, look how great this was, or this was pretty good, we can make it even better, or whatever it was. If the test results were terrible, they're terrible, and you've got some work to do to make things happen the right way. So
Okay. And then how much time does it take to create a customer journey map?
yeah, so we have just a few steps that we outlined here, but obviously it takes a lot longer than a 30-minute, 40-minute presentation to go through this. There's you're thinking about days or weeks. If you're into months, if it's a month, that's probably okay. That's reasonable. But if you're into multiple months, you might be overdoing it. If you're just looking at, again, a single lead source and mapping a journey to a single persona, if it's taking you months, some things you're making it too hard. So yeah, there's lots of stakeholders and lots of people in there, but it's not measured in hours. It's measured in weeks, probably a month, maybe 2 months, but not a whole lot longer than that.
Okay. And then our last question, should a customer journey map be current state or ideal state?
Yeah, it by default is sort of there is a journey map happening without you knowing it. So you may have some gaps. You probably have some gaps if you've never gone through this exercise. So what you're looking for is always trying to make this better, right? So that's why you do the exercise of figuring out what you've got. Look at the history, look at the data in CRM, and where are we now with the goal of a future state. We want it to be better. So your eye is on the future state, on how you can make things better.
Gotcha. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat. Oh, hold on. I think we do have a couple. Here's one from Ben Wilson. Have you created any custom Dynamics plugins to help with any of these stages?
So great question. Thanks, Ben. We have not created specific plugins for that. However, we do have a software application, a marketing automation platform that can map customer journey stage to the marketing automation suite and connect your data there. So your data for each of your journey stages is mapped over the marketing automation platform, and you can carry out your campaigns through that.
Great. And then I have another question here from Hasib. Can you shed some light on new marketing feature of real-time customer journey and how it is different from original customer journey in the marketing module?
So I think that that question is specific to the Microsoft marketing product, and I don't have a good answer for you there. Sorry about that.
Okay. That is all we have for now, unless anyone has any questions they want to put in the chat really quick. If not, you can head over to dynamicsuser.net or the CE breakout room here in Bella to continue the conversation.
Okay, there was one more question I just saw pop up from Mark. RFM, recency, frequency, monetary. So RFM analysis, it's started in cataloger days where catalogers were trying to optimize every square inch of a catalog to make sure that they were showing the right products in the right places to get the best response that they possibly could. So check out RFM, and that's a good little piece of information to kind of track some things for you to show results.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate your time, and Krista and I are both available if you have any follow-up questions.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.